Rain fell in slow, heavy sheets over the quiet streets of Columbus, Ohio, turning the city into a blur of gray and silver. In the small corner park, a man in his late 30s shuffled along the slick pavement, his coat pulled tight around him. His name was Mark Reynolds, a single dad whose life had been reduced to routines and responsibility. Mark's world revolved entirely around his 10-year-old son Jacob, a quiet boy with large, searching brown eyes that seemed older than his years. Life had not been kind to Mark after his wife's sudden death 2 years ago, leaving him alone to navigate grief, bills, and bedtime stories. He was exhausted, often running on autopilot, but he never let Jacob see the cracks. That evening, Mark had promised himself something small, a treat for Jacob. Despite the drizzle, he led his son to the tiny ice cream cart tucked near the park fountain, a place that smelled faintly of sugar and waffle cones. "One cone for you," Mark said, forcing a smile he didn't feel, as he handed Jacob the vanilla with chocolate sprinkles. Jacob's eyes lit up in a way that pierced Mark's weary heart, and for a moment, the world seemed lighter. Before the story goes further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small gestures, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because stories like these remind us why they matter. Jacob took the cone carefully, balancing it as if it were the most fragile thing in the world, but in his small, careful hands there was something else Mark didn't notice, a folded piece of paper, tucked inside his coat pocket, trembling slightly with his heartbeat. Jacob had been carrying it around all day, a letter he had written at school for his dad without knowing how to say what he truly felt. His little hand closed over it as he licked the ice cream slowly, savoring not just the sweetness, but the courage he had found to write the words that had been trapped in his chest for so long. Mark watched Jacob sit on the edge of the fountain, drops of rain clinging to his hair, and felt a pang of guilt mixed with love. He wanted to protect Jacob from everything, the harsh words from other kids at school, the loneliness that sometimes crept in, and the sadness he himself could never quite hide. And yet, he knew he couldn't shield him from everything, that some moments in life demanded bravery far greater than a father could offer. As Jacob slowly ate his ice cream, he finally found the courage to slip the letter from his pocket. The words were messy, written in a child's uneven scrawl, but the message was clear. "Dear Dad, I know you're always tired and sometimes I feel like I'm bothering you, but I love you more than anything. I know Mom would want us to be happy. I hope one day you know how much you mean to me." Jacob hesitated, looking up at his dad through the veil of rain, the letter shaking in his hands. Mark, lost in thought about bills and work and the endless nights of worry, didn't notice the letter slipping from Jacob's grasp and landing near his shoe. It fluttered against the wet pavement, the ink blurring slightly with the rain. Jacob didn't reach for it, unsure if now was the right moment. He wanted Mark to read it without prompting, to feel the words as though they were a gift, not a plea. The small fountain burbled quietly in the background, masking the tension that hung between father and son. Mark finally broke the silence, asking Jacob how school had been, what friends he had, what homework he still needed to finish. His voice was gentle, tired, filled with the kind of concern that only a parent can summon after years of sleepless nights and endless worry. But Jacob was distracted, his mind clinging to the letter, each word pounding like a heartbeat in his chest. Finally, in a moment of quiet courage, Jacob spoke. He pointed to the wet piece of paper at Mark's feet. "Dad, that's for you." Mark bent down, scooping up the paper and unfolding it carefully. At first, he thought it was just another school assignment, maybe a note about homework or a drawing. But as he read the words, something inside him shifted. His throat tightened, and he felt the sting of tears he hadn't allowed himself to shed in months. Each sentence was a revelation, a small, tender miracle, a reminder that love could survive grief, that the bond between a father and son could be unshakable, even when life seemed unbearable. The rain slowed to a drizzle, and Mark pulled Jacob close, hugging him with a strength that spoke of both relief and regret. He whispered promises that he didn't say often enough, that he loved Jacob, that he would always try to protect him, that he would never let the sadness swallow them whole. Jacob pressed his face into Mark's chest, feeling the steady beat of his father's heart, and understanding, in that small, silent way, that they were not alone. Mark realized in that moment that even the smallest gestures, a simple ice cream cone, a walk in the rain, the patience to notice when your child needs you, could carry the weight of a lifetime. He had been so wrapped up in survival that he almost missed the miracles unfolding in front of him. And Jacob, in his innocent bravery, had reminded him that sometimes love needed no words but action, and sometimes courage came in the form of a crumpled letter on a rainy day. Weeks passed, and that evening became a turning point. Mark began to slow down, to listen more, to notice the little things that made Jacob smile. He found himself leaving work a little earlier, taking longer walks, and reading bedtime stories without distraction. And Jacob, inspired by the courage it took to share his feelings, started opening up more, telling Mark about school, about friends, and about the things he loved, but had never dared to voice. The letter became their symbol, a reminder that connection and communication were more powerful than any struggle life could throw at them. Every time Mark looked at Jacob, he remembered that rainy day, that small cone, and that fragile letter. It was a simple act that had unlocked something profound, the understanding that love, patience, and attention could heal wounds that seemed impossible to mend. They still had hard days, moments of sadness, and nights where grief and stress threatened to overwhelm them. But they had each other, and that, they learned, was enough to keep moving forward. Before we end this story, I want to ask you, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of kindness, the importance of listening, or the courage to share your feelings, please like, comment, and share this video. It helps remind the world that even small acts can create big changes. And if you're watching this and feel inspired, comment below one way you've shown love or received it unexpectedly. It might just brighten someone else's day. Mark and Jacob never forgot that rainy evening, never forgot the way a simple ice cream cone and a secret letter could bring two hearts closer than ever before. Sometimes life surprises us in quiet, ordinary moments, and sometimes those moments are the most extraordinary of all. And in the end, Mark understood that love, no matter how battered or hidden by grief, always finds a way to speak when we least expect it, but most need to hear it.